Hey everybody, Doug Walker here. So this week we did not record our first viewing of Clock Stoppers. We didn't have that much to say anyway, and we kind of knew we wouldn't. But the ones going forward, we will. And the real thoughts this week, because I'm busy editing Suicide Squad ahead of time for the big screening, we didn't have time to film one, so what we're doing is that we're actually taking the end of our first viewing of Fantastic Four, Fant4stic, and putting that on because Rob specifically goes on so long talking about how much he hates the movie that he actually at one point even says, just make this the real thoughts. So that's pretty much what I'm doing. So don't worry, we'll get back to the first viewings of the real thoughts afterwards. But for now, we're just going to show you just the ravings right after we saw this movie. And I think it's his anger at this film at the purest. I don't think he can get any angrier than this. So enjoy.
What a bait and switch. Because I thought at first, I'm like, you know what, this is not going to be as bad as everybody was making it out to be. I'm like, okay, it's a little dull, but I'm like, this is semi-competent. I'm like, okay, they're trying to take it a little more seriously. And just nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing came of that.
A whole bunch of nothing. You know, and it's like the movie itself is so embarrassed to be Fantastic Four that they could never verbally say it out loud.
Until the very...
No, they didn't say it.
That's right.
They had the movie say it. It doesn't even open up with, you are watching the Fantastic Four. They wait till the end to show you the title because it's like, we can't even say it. We're that ashamed.
You know what sucks?
All of this?
Yeah, but the first half of the movie where they weren't doing jack shit was still the better half.
Yeah.
We're like, once they got superpowers, they still didn't fucking do anything. The most we got was a montage. Hey, here's what we've been doing for past year. Why don't you fucking show us? Like, the little video screen is nice. Why don't you fucking show us that? What the fuck? And then at the end, that climax is completely incomprehensible. You still can't take Doom really seriously. You know what? You gotta just fucking run with Doom, man, because you're never gonna take it seriously.
Yeah.
It's like, either have him running his bullshit country, or don't bother at all, because fucking papier-mâché head, like, is not working for me.
You know, and that's two Fantastic Four remakes now, or, you know, reboots, whatever you want to call them, where they don't fight crime, they cause more trouble than they fix. I mean, they cause all of these. And there's nothing really that fantastic about them.
No, it just... they have no chemistry with each other. I will say this, at least they don't have bad chemistry, it's just no chemistry. I've seen movies where they literally have bad chemistry. It's like, I don't believe that you guys would even, like, go to the catering table at the same time in between takes. That's how much you fucking hate each other.
Well, you know, and
it's not like that, but they still have zero chemistry. It's just more like, after they're done, I'm like... Yeah, later.
You know, and with the first one as bad as
I don't believe that, you know, fuck the interracial thing. I don't care about that. There's interracial couples and like, they didn't act like brother and sister. I just didn't believe that they were related.
With the first film...
So if you're going to do that sort of thing, you'd better make me believe that they're at least related.
I have to... Whenever they said father and sister, I'm like, oh yeah, they're related. Like, I completely forgot there's any connection to them, you know, at all.
I forgot that he was her father.
So did I.
Like...
He never talked to her like a daughter at all.
But sometimes when he talks to... Johnny Storm, I forget that he's his father.
Yeah, they had the one scene with the car. Okay, that was like father and son. But
well, you know why that
else.
is? Because we needed to have takes that went on for 30 minutes where they were just typing shit, or they would say a line of dialogue. Oh my god, that reminds me. It's like fucking Unbreakable, man. Where you have these, like, long conversation scenes that go on for 40 minutes because they just don't cut in between takes, in between lines of dialogue, so they'll say something and just hold on their face for an extra 3 seconds.
Well, no. With Shyamalan, that was to show off I can do this in one shot. With this, there was editing. They just included, like, all the dialogue. Yeah, and man, there's just... At least with the first one, I remember... kind of how lame and silly and bad they were. With this one, I don't remember anything about these guys.
Like, we can complain about problems with, like, Avengers 2 or something, but this climax, literally what the Avengers ate, digested, shit out, and then basically buried into the ground, and then you dug up what little petrified remains were left of those turds, that doesn't even come close to describing this climax. Like... This was the corn in the Avengers 2's climax's shit.
You know,
like, that just, I'm sorry, like, that bothers me most, so it's like, well, at least maybe we'll get some eye candy. You couldn't fucking see anything. What you could see was just this jumbled CGI mess. It's not even like, listen, the Avengers like movies and Dark Knight and like a lot of these, they use a lot of CGI. I don't care that it's CGI. It's just I can't even tell what the fuck I'm looking at. Like Transformers makes more sense when it comes to their climaxes than this. Like, I can still kind of make out what's going on in a Michael Bay movie. This was worse than that.
Well, I feel like if that guy has that much power to move all these rocks and everything, like, there they are. It's like, just these giant rock hands come up. They'd be gone, dead. Like, that'd be it. Why is this taking so long?
Hit me with a rock. Yeah, that'll work. I just like, that was like the things like, I was like, I guess it's very thing, but I'm just like, really? Just hit him with a rock? Right. Like, why not?
It's like just...
And Susan's like, I can make myself invisible. Will this come in handy ever? No, not really.
Does she ever use
her
invisibility?
I'm really trying to
even in the original,
she uses
the first
her
one.
Shield power.
Yeah, she uses the shield a lot, but even in the first one, she does go invisible to get the drop on people and save people and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, she never uses her invisibility in this. You know, thinking back just after seeing
I wanted to like it from the first 20 minutes. Like
that's all I remember.
More like, I hope, like, more like, okay, this isn't perfect, but this is a stronger start than I thought it was going to be, and I want to like this. Maybe it will get better as it goes along. No, it just got worse and worse and worse.
What I remember
I feel like
most,
we're doing the real thoughts right now.
Yeah, no, what I remember most is that first like 20 minutes, maybe even half hour. I kind of remember them as kids putting the stuff together and everything, and it's like, it was still kind of lame, but it's like, I remember it. Like, I just don't remember anything. I kind of remember what the thing looks like.
I remember the montage just because I'm like, that's cool. Can we see more of them doing their super? That was it. That little 2-minute montage.
Yeah, you don't even like all the cool super stuff is on video. Why are we watching that on video? Why don't you see the test? Why don't you? Why aren't you on his side hitting the people on tanks?
The story goes that Fox saw the original cut and was like, fuck this. And I have no idea, because I'm assuming we watched the Fox cut. I have no idea if Trank's cut's any better. It could be just as awful, just in different ways. But this did feel like two separate movies. I felt like after they got their superpowers, we dumped into some other film that was its own separate origin story. This was like two different origin stories.
Yeah.
You had them as kids, like growing up to the point where they get the superpowers, and then a new origin story starts after they get the superpowers. And none was particularly interesting, but I still thought the first was better. I still don't get why, like, the whole, like, oh, she's got a romance kind of with Von Doom, and now he's pissed off.
Yeah, what's the point of that?
Went anywhere.
Again,
just so at the end, you can be like, I'm going to beat you up, Reed, because you had a romance. But I was like, but you never did anything.
Even the stupid, like, all these things I'm thinking about that they did that I totally forgot about. I'm like, oh my god, they did that in the first crappy remake. And it's like, yeah, that was actually done better there, because at least I remember it. At least I'm like, oh, there was, like, he was proposing to her, looking over the earth and stuff like that. It's like, I remember visuals, I remember stuff.
It was stupid, but it was there.
It was memorable.
This one, they just removed it altogether. So I'm like, well, I can't say it was stupid, but there was nothing else there.
Yeah.
You removed, like, kind of what makes the Fantastic Four just fantastic. Like,
instead there's just 4. We have 4, but no Fantastic.
You're gonna be gritty.
You're just looking at the number 4. It's like looking at the number 4. It's like, well, yeah, that's 4.
Fucking Christopher Nolan, man. I feel... Listen,
everything comes back to him, doesn't it?
We have our problems with Dark Knight Rises, but I still feel those films from beginning to end were at least a complete trilogy. Didn't end perfectly, but unlike Batman Forever compared to Batman Returns, I felt like, okay, this is a complete set. And The Dark Knight is an amazing movie. It's like in my top 5 comic book movies of all time. I thought Batman Begins was really solid, and there are parts of Dark Knight I like. I'm like, okay.
Dark Knight Rises, you mean?
Dark Knight Rises, yeah, that wrap up all together. But I feel like they've been trying so fucking hard since. It's like, whoa, work the Dark Knight, it's gotta work here. And it's like, yeah, but Christopher Nolan, like, love or hate everything he does, fucking knew what he was doing with Dark Knight. Like, it may not be 100% perfect, there's little tiny things that I would fix, but he fucking nailed it with that one, and everybody just thinks, well, we can just do Dark Knight again. But it's starting to get to the point where I'm just like, listen, that may be, like, for lack of a better word, the Citizen Kane of, like, dark, gritty superhero movies.
I feel like there's not that many
or the Schindler's List of superheroes. You're just not going to be able to do it again. You're just going to have to fucking, like, say, okay, that worked once. We're going to have to try to do our own thing and not fucking copy The Dark Knight, which is what I feel like so many of these are doing.
Well, particularly, like, anyone honestly just not Marvel MCU right now.
Marvel is... That's the sad part, is Marvel is the only one who's nailed it with Daredevil.
Yeah.
Which is
and
their
Jessica
TV.
Jones,
yeah. Or, you know what? You know what? No. I'll give fucking DC this. I thought the first 2 seasons of Arrow, I thought they fucking nailed it. Like, it's not exactly like The Dark Knight. It's a little more...
is very different
DC TV with their first... Now, the seasons of Arrow after that are not as good. But those first 2 seasons, I'm like, okay, you nailed it with that. It's a slightly little goofier than Dark Knight, but I think you nailed that kind of tone. Like, dark and gritty. This guy's going to be an asshole and beat the shit out of people and kill people, and he's going to be a billionaire, and
I hear Flash and Supergirl just did a musical, apparently, and it's apparently great, and I'm just like, I don't know how this is working, but I'll give credit that it's somehow working.
Different. If Arrow is like Dark Knight, then The Flash to me is like Spider-Man. So it's a goofier universe, and Supergirl's like fucking Richard Donner, like Superman.
Yeah.
Which I liked, and I could take it just... It's like a little more serious, I think, than the Richard Donner Superman, and I really like it. So it's like, they have some concept of what they're doing there, even if they're going up and down with it. It's not all good, but, you know, apparently Marvel's Iron Fist sucks, so it's like they're not infallible either. Just fucking Fox. Like, fuck.
But
God, and I like the Fantastic Four. That's what pisses me off. This is just going to be our real thoughts as well. Like, Fantastic Four I read as a kid. Like, that was one of those that I read really as a younger kid. Like, it was one of those, like, you kind of grow out of it a little because it always was kind of goofy. But I used to have the old Fantastic Four comics. I had this big Marvel collection. It was this book that had a number of the first issues and, like, maybe a few story arcs after that. And it was fucking great. Like, how do you take something that was just fun and colorful and its own thing and just twice fuck it up? At least with the Spider-Man films, Spider-Man 1 is okay. Spider-Man 2 is a really solid movie. Spider-Man 3 sucked. And with the reboot, I'm like, Spider-Man 1 was okay. And Spider-Man 2, the romance was good. Who would have guessed that? Mm-hmm. And then the rest of the movie sucked. But at least you had pieces there. Mm-hmm. Fantastic Four, it's like, we haven't had jack shit yet. And this was the second reboot. The second reboot, you're done. You're done.
This.
Sell it to Marvel.
I'm watching this and I'm thinking to myself, okay, this, like I said, with that first 20 minutes.
Run with Logan. Logan was amazing, but we're done with Fantastic Four.
I'm watching, I'm thinking to myself, well, okay, like this first 20 minutes, like I said, isn't great. It's probably not Fantastic Four, but at least it's interesting enough. And
it was stupid.
The whole time I'm watching, I'm thinking, well, this isn't as bad as the remake or the last one, or Silver Surfer or anything. And it's just like, man, yeah, just with the total lack of anything happening, I'm like, it does kind of become worse. Because at least I remember that first one. I just barely remember anything from this, and I just watched it.
Okay, it's the Mortal Kombat Annihilation thing. Mm-hmm. I remember that film because it's so awful. Much more than I do the first one. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing with Fantastic Four. The first one is so goofy awful bad that I remember more. This one is so gritty boring bad that about the first 20 minutes in that middle montage, that's all I remember.
Yeah. I turned it off.
We're done.
Yeah.
I just fuck this movie.
So, yeah, pretty bad. Oh. Not a good film. Would you say it's worse than the first one? Oh, God. What do I even call that one? The 90s one? I think it was in the 90s. Or 2000. What do you even call it? They're just... You can't say the bad one. The Chris Evans one.
Yeah, Captain America Fantastic Four.
Okay, yeah. Is this worse than the Chris Evans Fantastic Four? What would you say?
Oh, man. It's like the apples and oranges of shitdom.
Yeah, it really is.
I appreciated trying to take it more seriously early on in this way more than in the other film, where it was just so goofy that it was obnoxious. But I can't remember this movie as well
I
as
at least
the first
remember.
one.
I even remember some of the action in.
The problem is, if you want to take it seriously, you have to have a payoff. You have to Dark Knight it, and just know how to execute it properly. And they didn't. So the other one is kind of worse in how goofy it is. Like, you can't take any of that seriously, but I sure as hell remember it more.
You want to know why, too? And I'll give it this.
And it probably bothered me a little less just because I feel like this being the second time around, I'm like, no, you should have gotten your shit right now.
Yeah, and you know what? this one took no chances. It didn't take one damn chance. You know, if casting a black guy as the Human Torch is your big chance, you know, your big risk.
Well, they wasted that. Like, that was my problem. Everybody went batshit over there. Oh my God, he's black. He can't be black. He wrecks the character. I'm like, I'm not upset because of that. I'm upset because I just know
character is breaking the
he's going to be a poorly written character. Like, that's going to be the only interesting thing about him is that he's black. And that was. Like, him street racing and, like, the fact that they were some interracial, that was the most interesting thing about him. They wrote nothing else interesting about those three.
No.
Like, nothing. And it didn't, you know what bothers me? Is it did not inform, if you're going to be like, okay, we're going to change the race of this character, and this bugs the shit out of me. If you're going to change the race of this character, make them an interracial family, that's fine. Does it inform anything they do? Is there anything sort of special that they get out of that? Like, you know, growing up in an interracial family, we had to deal with a lot of shit. Or, you know, we had to learn how to get along because it was tough. Or people looked at us funny. And does it inform anything in the fucking movie that they'd be like, we can apply this to fighting as superheroes or getting through this challenge? Fucking zero. Nothing. You did it just to get a rise out of people, just to be like, hey, we did this, look at our movie. And, like, you know, of course the fucking racist idiots are just like, oh my God, he's black, while everybody else is just like, no, we have to defend this because he's black. And the reality is, it didn't mean jack shit.
I mean, for me, if you do something like that, it doesn't always have to have an impact, as long as it represents the character well. Like Billy Dee Williams as Harvey Dent. It's like, there's no reason for that, but it's like, he would be a cool Two-Face.
Billy Dee fucking Williams in Batman was 1,000 times more interesting than this,
that's
and he was a minor character.
He would be an interesting Two-Face, you know, so that's why it's
you
like...
You find out what these people are poisoning us with, and fast. I'm working on it. That nest of vipers.
He's Two-Face in... Lego Batman, by the way.
That's fucking amazing.
It's a minor, like, I think he has like 2 lines or something, but it is pretty cool.
See that movie.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot better than this. A lot more memorable. What I was going to say, the last thing...
You have to make it about that specific, but if you're going to make a major change like that, then you have to make sure you have some well-written characters. You're right, like Billy Dee Williams is not like we knew everything, but the acting, the way his character was written, the realistic way it portrayed, you didn't think about the change in race because it was a good character. In this one, you think about the change in race because you're like, this is not a good character.
Because there's nothing else to think about.
Are we going to get anything else out of this? Are you going to at least use the racial thing to try to, like, milk something out of this? And nothing. So it failed on every single level. And... all 3 of them seem like perfectly decent actors. So it's not like I'm sitting there going like, oh, well, he was
bad.
No, he was a miscast when he smiled and was trying to be a jackass when the script would let him. I would be like, okay, like I could see how he could be a good Human Torch. I thought Susan Storm, she was fine. Occasionally she had like focus in her eyes. I'm like, I could see her being a scientist. I could see Daddy Torch or Daddy Storm, you know, being the serious. I'm like, but the script just gave them no lines to chew on.
I would much rather have something take a risk and fail than something play it safe, bland, not interesting all the way through. Because at least the failure will leave an impact. And I will
say the first movie left more than an impact.
Yeah,
it is I remember so bad. I'm just like, I remember how bad it is. All I remember from this is just sheer disappointment.
Yeah, just a total nothing happening. And why watch that? I'd much rather watch, you know, The Room than, you know, a blank screen. You know, so yeah, that's our thoughts on it. And
chuck this bottle at the TV if I could.
Fantastic Four, there are definitely 4, but not fantastic. Definitely not fantastic. So
are there 4 of these films now?
No, there's 4 of them.
There are 3 films. The adequate 3.
No. The Roger Corman, which is sadly the best one so far.
Still the best one.
They at least go fight crime.
It looks like the Fantastic Four.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's about it. And maybe we'll see you next time. Bye. Bad movie.